on, starting event. Let's get going. All right, everyone. We're straight out
alive.
of the gate. It's alive. Welcome to This Week in Hospitality Digital Marketing Show number 107, where coming straight out of the green room, fighting stance ready, talking about Cornell University's lack of marketing, is Mr. Robert Cole from Rock Cheetah over to the far right, or my far right anyway. And dead center from what it looks like on my screen is Mr. Edward StOnge from Flip2. Gentlemen, a warm and hearty welcome to you on this 107th show.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Happy soggy Friday. And I say that from Florida. We have a little depression over us, as you know, Mr. Ed. But Houston, they're building arcs. I mean, and they need to, because that's a scary proposition.
Well, hasn't Houston been having pretty low rainfall too? Like, is it?
No.
They've actually been getting soaked. Okay, that's actually good for them though.
I don't know. They've got a lot of grounds. The ground is saturated already. So
what's 3 feet of rain in a day or two?
What is that? Right.
If you can't handle 3 feet of rain,
I'll tell you what.
Which, by the way, would be 30 feet of snow.
Yeah, true.
Every inch of rain is a foot of snow.
If you could get all that heat from the Gulf of Mexico,
every foot of rain,
that's right. Onto a mountain.
Every foot of rain, every foot of rain is interesting. But here, I'll tell you my quick Houston story. When I first moved to Houston from Florida, people drove crazy. I mean, like NASCAR, right on your butt. And you like had to draft people, right? They're going 90 miles an hour. Where in Florida, I'm kind of used to the Q-tips driving, 40 with a blinker.
You live in the wrong part of Florida.
That's true, right? Orlando a little different. Well, Miami too, for that matter. Miami's a whole different world.
Ed's got tourists in there missing their exit, which makes
and they're all in minivans with their foot to the floor.
Yeah. Stressed out because the kids are screaming and they
have to go potty
go potty. So anyway, I'm driving along and all of a sudden it starts raining and all these aggressive drivers turn into soft shell. They're just creeping along and I'm like, what is this? It's just freaking rain, guys. What's going on? Until I realized Houston was built in the rice fields. That's what they used to have in that area was rice fields. Mm-hmm. So the water doesn't go anywhere. It just begins to pool up and everybody slowed down because the hydroplane, because the water doesn't run off anywhere. It just builds. And they have a terrible thing about water underneath bridges. What the apartment complex I lived in when we first moved there, it started to rain the first time and people were running out in the parking lot and all parking over in this one little section far away. And I'm like, what's everybody doing? Until I saw the water just go up into the parking lot where, it turned into a lake. And they were parking on the one high spot that everybody knew would keep the car dry. Fortunately,
I'll give a requisite Four Seasons story from 1980.
Cornell, Four Seasons, we're early on the bingo card.
I'm getting them out of the way fast. They build the Inn on the Park in Houston, which is now an Omni. Beautiful, nice little setting and things like that. But in the Buffalo Bayou goes right next to it. Had a rainstorm and the parking garage, the way it was designed, the exit was kind of up. Now, not good about 2 weeks after the hotel opens, they have Mercedes and Porsches floating around in your parking garage.
And that's why Carfax exists.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's when social didn't exist, because that would have been great pictures, wouldn't it?
And they saw this stuff coming, and I mean, they couldn't do anything. Like, oh my God, the exit's over there, the water's all here. And the water just kept going up, and it's like, we're screwed.
That was one of Houston's development problems, is that when they did overpasses, they didn't do really overpasses, they just dug a trench under them. Yeah. And so there's this trough underneath the overpasses, and they just fill up with water. I mean, like deep water, like 20-foot deep water.
Dallas, all the places did that. They did.
Yeah,
the cross streets were at surface level, and then the highway dipped down, or they'd do things like that, or dig down for the cross street.
Needless to say, Houston and what they're expected to get. What I was a little surprised with is that the weathermen here, and I don't know whether it was in Dallas too, and also in Orlando, they downplayed this storm in the Gulf, like, oh, it's going to be a weak, maybe a weak Category 1 as it hits, but it's really just going to be a rainmaker. And then all of a sudden, it jacks to a Category 3, like
because the Gulf is hot right now.
Yeah, 2 degrees above normal, and very deep apparently too.
Okay, now my point to this is that I think they relied upon AI. It's like, oh, the computer tells us it's not going to do anything, so we're just going to say it's not going to do anything. Yet common sense, we're sitting here going, the water temperature is 89 degrees right now in the Gulf, and you got a low depression that's not moving fast. Guess what's going to happen, guys? It doesn't take a rocket scientist or a computer to figure out. It's going to fire up.
I highly recommend everybody to look at Weather Underground and read
It's great.
Dr. Jeff Masters' blog. It's called Category 6. Really wonky, but boy, the guy goes in detail. And you'll see, though, with the computer models, they have 5 or 6 different models. One of them has it going up to a Category 4. One of them has it
What's interesting is
kind of in a Category 1, and the others are kind of in the middle.
The EU model is the most reliable one. It has the highest level of accuracy, which is ironic because the EU never gets hit by hurricanes.
Yeah, exactly.
But they have a lot of data about weather systems, micro weather systems, in comparison to their geographic areas, so they can really finite their math. I watched a really great thing on. Oh, hey, Mr. Tim's joining us.
Speaking of hard blowing and full of hot air,
hey,
Tim Peter!
Hey,
Hurricane.
I heard you playing my theme song.
Hang on. Little known fact. Tim's stripper name before he met Tammy was Hurricane Harvey. So
there you go.
What do you mean before I met Tammy?
When? That's how they met.
And that's how they stay together.
That's right.
I'm going to get in so much trouble for this episode, man.
Unfortunately,
Hurricane
as
Harvey.
we all do, she doesn't watch it.
Are you kidding me? This is what we do on Saturday nights. We play back the recording.
They make it, with the kids. It's
Look
great.
what I can do.
Exactly. We call it the Hurricane Harvey show, but other than that,
Oh, hey, look, Holly's with us.
Oh, my.
Now we got some class to the show. Now
it's Hurricane Holly.
Hurricane Holly. Hey, Holly.
I've been called worse. Uh-oh.
You've offended Robert.
Yeah, you obviously have pissed
Robert's
off
like, well, now that this is going to be a factual show,
I gotta go. So Robert has been generous. He was the one that first came back with 10 content items. Obviously, that's his way of saying he came back from his vacation up in Northwest. And he gave us the content item. But Mr. Ed, you had one that was relatively new that popped up that you wanted to
I was just saying, I think it's interesting. And it's like so hot off the press that my wife, who is actually on the alumni board of this school, didn't even know, which is the dean of the Rosen Hospitality School has announced his immediate retirement after 35 years.
Wow.
Immediate?
Like, this is his, like, they're searching now, and he's not going to stay extended, like 1 year.
And
it's interesting.
This was just announced today?
At 11.
Oh, wow. And this is effective like today. So like a week or so before classes start.
Yeah, so they're saying from a course, college business administration, blah, 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 blah. It's number 5 in the world. Yeah. Search for the next leader of the Rosen School, and after a short sabbatical, I will rejoin the faculty as the scholar chair, tourism management.
Now,
yeah, so he's going to retire, take a little time off, and come back as the eminent scholar chair in tourism management. Yeah.
Well, we were having a rather rousing discussion in the green room just as we kicked into the show of Cornell's perspective in life as their things have changed a little bit. So we were hitting the bingo card early with Robert on how Cornell has a marketing crisis on its hands plus an identity crisis all at the same time, at the worst possible time in a perfect storm, where now competition has actually firmed up and gotten real for them.
Yeah, UNLV's gotten real serious. UCF has gotten incredibly serious, and UNLV and UCF have something that, Ithaca doesn't, which is real tourism industry.
Oh, sure.
And that.
Yeah. But when you control the global hospitality industry, is that really important? I don't know.
Oh my God! The red mafia is out today.
Wow. Well, and I like his initial claim was, that their big problem is they don't have marketing, which just made me laugh because, like, their marketing's built into every alumni that they have, who is like just by reaction within the first 3 sentences of meeting you will bring up the fact they're
Cornell.
That's exactly.
That's
right.
That's actually taught at freshman orientation.
Yeah.
Right. You know the old joke about how can you tell the Cornell alum at a party? Don't worry, they'll tell
They'll
you.
tell you.
Exactly.
Robert has that knowing
Start
smile.
laughing.
I do have a very. I spoke up there a couple of times, and I do have a very nice hat. So I actually like the hat. That's
Oh,
my.
they gave you a hat.
That's my credential from Cornell. Is I have a very nice hat.
So
The problem is,
you've gone to Cornell.
I have gone to Cornell. That's correct. And the only challenge I have with the hat these days is from a distance, it looks like it should say "Make America Great Again." So
Actually, I did speak with Bill Carroll when he was still up there. I spoke to a class remotely for him, which was a first for them at the time. It goes back a few years. I miss Bill. I actually would like to talk to Bill.
But that's one of the.
Bill lives in my town now. I run into.
I know
Bill.
you told me that. You were being very nice about not giving too many details of the location, so we can't stalk him. But
right, exactly. I want to keep.
He was a very thoughtful. He was a very thoughtful man. He when he was with the HSMAI board, he worked very well with looking forward for them. He was the kind of guy that dragged them forward on a lot of thoughts. They were kind of stuck in the present, and he kept reminding them that this was just a temporary circumstance. It's going to get different soon. So I really always appreciated that about him.
But and he is sorely missed because they have not filled that position, and the whole change with going under the business school, they have this gap. There is no hospitality, marketing classes really, at least in terms of the stuff that he did. I mean, really, he taught economics as well. He had a PhD in it. But aside from that, that's easy, right? You can get tons of people at Cornell to teach economics. But the stuff that he was teaching on, social media and pricing and true hospitality marketing, they haven't had any curriculum for over 2 years. It's not good. Yeah, they're going to their probably fifth semester without that that stuff, which is not
you
good.
Want to move to Ithaca?
I lived 20 minutes away for one long year in Aurora, New York. Never again.
Sure. Aurora. Wow, I know where Aurora is.
Ithaca.
Why do you know Aurora?
I used to work up that way. I used to work at a summer camp years ago.
When he was under his other dance name, Hurricane Harry, was it?
Hurricane Harvey.
Harvey.
I believe Ithaca still has the most bars per capita or at least Tompkins County of any county in the U.S. So
yeah,
and only Robert would know that.
Because in the winter,
think about it, only Robert would know that.
To do.
yeah.
I have to tell you a funny story. I have a client in Norway who is a Cornell alum. I was just in Norway, got back day before yesterday. Sorry, I am still a little jet lagged. My sleep has been a little off the last couple nights. And this is a guy who lives in Stockholm. He works in Norway, and he said he loved his time at Cornell. It was a great place to go. It was a fantastic school, etc. And also, it's nowhere near as nice in the winter as Stockholm or Oslo.
That's a cold statement. That's a cold statement. Hey, speaking of which, Robert, since you brought the 10 topics that you had, I have a couple of them in the bag just because some things popped up. But is there one that a particular favorite?
I like
the
app one. I think we could have an interesting conversation.
Yeah. I like
yes. The mobile apps that don't work or don't get downloaded.
I just want to say, duh.
And there it is, folks. We've nailed that one down already.
Okay.
Moving along.
On to the next one.
You mean the only apps that have cracked the top listing on app stores are the ones that offer enough hotels to actually be worthy of being downloaded?
Right.
Like, wow.
Right.
No one could have seen that coming.
Well, it's funny.
Should a hotel really count on their single hotel app as a true source of business and interaction?
Well, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, please.
Somebody actually, Ed, that you referred me to was smart. I think it was South
and that's
Seas.
Surprising. Yeah.
Maybe
That's
South
newsworthy
Seas
right there.
Plantation. They have their own app, which sort of surprised me since they worked with you. I thought you would have discouraged it. But they said what makes it work is they have their shuttle.
It adds value.
Exactly. Thank you. But you can watch the shuttle where it is, and so you know how long it's going to be. And that's what makes everybody download it. But then they really are able to push out helpful information to people staying on site. And I think that's the issue. Right. So they were smart.
Yeah, listen, and here's the thing. If you're a mega resort, which South Seas, by the way, who has 2.5 miles of their own private beach, falls under that category. Yeah, listen, they're meaningful, but be careful how much you invest in them, because like I went to Atlantis, and Atlantis is a very complicated resort, very hard to find the things you want to find. And I'll be honest, the app I downloaded, and I apologize if anyone is here from when I stayed watching, but it actually eroded the guest experience for me, because I downloaded it because it's such a complex resort, and it was not very useful. It didn't do even the basics of what I figured it would do if you were going to put the effort in. So therefore, it was a touch point of disappointment, unnecessarily.
Right.
A touch point of disappointment. And this is the thing I always caution people on. Only do the things you know you can do well.
Right.
Because there are negative impacts that you can't measure that happen when you do this. And so, yeah, it was probably one of my favorite vacations I've done. Okay, I had a great time there, but it stuck out to me how disappointing that the app, like, and maybe I'm spoiled because I live near Universal and Disney, who have very useful apps.
Right.
You know, Tim, you saw that was like one of the first things I recommended to you was download their apps, because like your park experience is going to be horrible without them.
Yeah.
And so maybe I'm spoiled because of that as a traveler, but it was a point of disappointment. And I find that most hotel apps are that to me.
Right.
So I guess I don't know why there's not a brand who's purchasing something like an Alice for their brand.
Well, I mean, listen,
Well,
Hilton and Marriott were listed as the exceptions to this, but that's because of gravity. Like they're big enough that it's worthwhile having, and they've realized that they can do some neat things with the apps that are truly beneficial to the guest experience. Like, you know, not making me wait to check in to your massive hotel, that if I had to wait to check in because of the size of your hotel, it would be quite of a long wait.
And with Hilton, you can pick your room and things like that.
Right, which is really hard to do.
I actually like the Hilton app, and I use it regularly when I stay with Hilton properties.
And quite honestly, from a mobile experience, if you want to book a hotel, it's far superior to their mobile website.
Yeah, that's right.
The app is, and so, you know, like I agree. I think Hilton's app is pretty darn good.
Yeah.
But I still think it's behind the value proposition of like JetBlue, and Southwest has a pretty strong app. So the airlines have strong apps. Disney and Universal, their apps are amazing. Like that's what apps should strive to be.
Right.
Well, and so I'm not poo-pooing everyone who made the decision to get
but those apps are for the experience, you know, for the experience at the park, right? And you've got that whole, and that's a problem for hotels.
Like if you're going to spend money,
they can, but you know, again, for all the inventory that they control. I mean, a place like Atlantis, yes, you should have dining reservations and wait times at the restaurants and all the things that you can, you know, upgrades available to go do different, you know, experiences and all that stuff.
And just schedule maintenance. Like there's so much stuff to do that if you did take up like a lot of the things you can do, it should like maintain your schedule for you.
So for big resorts and things like that, the challenge for a lot of the hotel groups though is, yes, the Hilton app, great. You've got this giant thing. Yes, you can check in. Yes, you can use it as your door key. You can do all those sorts of things. But once you get beyond that, getting all those things going on at all those hotels just winds up the burden.
I still think the huge miss is room service.
Oh, they all hate room service though. They want to get rid of room service.
Let me order room service without having to talk to someone.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
And watch the progress of it, so I know if I have time to take a shower.
Why is Domino's kicking your butt? I mean,
but that's the Alice component. That's why I don't understand why they don't just take what's out there and.
Oh well.
Alice though.
Why a lot of that stuff exists.
I know.
But Alice
starts with the decision to build your own technology when you're not all in on that investment.
A technology company.
Right. Thank you. So let's start there. And then let's continue on with, at least when a technology company is a technology company, and like the CEO leaves, usually another CEO comes in, and vision is continually pushed forward.
Right.
But when a company dabbles in technology and a manager changes, like it can lose all vision. And it may be a long time before vision or attention is brought back to that technology. And the day you stop building and innovating on whatever technology you're doing is the day it starts going out of business.
Well, I want to tell a story about this that I find really interesting. I was talking to a company the other day, like 2.5 weeks ago. But I was having a conversation with a board member. I got to be careful about this. And they were talking about some changes within the organization. CIO was leaving, et cetera. New CIO was coming in and all this. And the CIO, one of the candidates they were talking to, insisted on reporting to the CEO. And the CEO said, yeah, that's not how we do things here. The CIO reports to the CFO. And when you do that, what you end up with is really, really cost-effective investments in technology, but not necessarily good ones.
At the complete expense of any form of long-term strategy.
Right. Yep. It's driven by, do we make quarterly numbers and things along those lines? Do we report what we can to the street, et cetera? To any company these days. So I do some work with this board called Digital Leadership and Transformation for the conference board. I think I've talked about them before. And, one of the core things we talk about a lot and these are people from Fortune 500 companies, Global 500 companies, et cetera, who lead digital strategy essentially for their companies. And one of the things that we talk about a lot is there's no real such thing as digital transformation. There is business transformation in a world where digital is the norm. Right.
Well, see, this is the problem.
Expedia does not have a digital transformation project.
So
Google
we're actually
does not have a digital transformation project. Just give me 1 second, right? None of these guys are transforming. They recognize that the customer has transformed, the business has transformed, the industry has transformed, and they need to shape their business around how do we address those customer needs, and technology is a core component of that. And I think a lot of hotel companies miss that continually.
Well,
sorry, go ahead.
So interesting to this topic. So next week I'm speaking at the Florida Governors Conference put on by Visit Florida. And in my normal craziness, they did a call for speakers, and I'm like, oh, I have an awesome idea. Let's pull together a panel. Let's propose a panel to Visit Florida, and we're going to talk about how innovation actually happens.
Nice.
And then I'm like, all right, I'm going to go on, do all my stuff. And then, Visit Florida's like, yes, you've got your hour and 15 minutes. And I was like, oh, crap. So we've been working on, because I don't want it to be like something you sit through and you walk away with like, well, how do I get started? I wanted it to be a block and tackle approach to how to think, how to strategize with real world examples. So I'm doing this alongside the chief marketing officer of Visit Myrtle Beach, and then the director of marketing of the Shores Resort in Daytona. And so we're doing this from a perspective of a person, me, who's been an innovator twice as a vendor, CMO of Visit Myrtle Beach, who their model got disrupted. He saw it coming and was ahead of it, but did all the work it takes to stop it from just killing them. And then a director of marketing at a hotel who innovates in small ways every single day with no budget, a change of ownership, 2 changes of management companies, like really good example of this. And so what we wanted to do though, is we didn't want this to become about projects we did or things like that. We've been taking it down the approach of how innovation happens. And one of the key things that came up, and this is why you made me think of it, Tim, is, one of the key points we're going to make is technology is not innovation.
Right. That's exactly right.
Okay. Innovation is a strategy.
Right.
Okay. Technology is what you identify you need to make the strategy possible. it doesn't start it. So when you hear someone saying digital innovation, it's almost like an oxymoron because innovation is a strategy and digital is not
the tool.
Well, it's a tool, right?
Right.
It's a tool. It supports. If you think about the ones you were talking about the parks, right? You were talking about all these folks who do a good job.
He just wanted to really impress. It's a tool. He wants us to think about that.
Well, yeah, but if you think, but I mean, the
aren't we all?
Is, wow.
Just like a wholesale loss of
that was like a Robert mic drop. I've said my piece.
I'm out.
Oh no! I thought it was a Tim mic
did
drop.
It to us too. There we go. Now everyone's back.
Okay.
Now everyone's back. Like, what the heck happened there?
That was weird.
So anyway, the thing I was going to say was they start with a customer experience. They start with how do we make this actually help the guest? There's a framework Google uses that I think is pretty good. It's be there, be useful, be quick. Right? Be present when people need it, help them solve a specific problem, and then get the hell out of their way. Right? Let them do what they got to do and get back to what they want to do afterwards. And if you think about the apps people use, if you think about the tools people use, etc., they're doing that, but they're focused more on, are we creating a good experience? And
here's why, because in their strategy, so one of the key things that I see constantly when I'm talking to hotels about what they're doing is there's one question I ask that just it sounds like nails on a chalkboard, I think, to these people, which is, well, what's the overall goal?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And so here's the funny thing about it. I get a lot of mixed answers. And now everyone's back. Okay. Everyone's still there?
Yes.
So one of the most common answers I get is put heads in beds. Right. And so I asked them, like, well, is that really the goal? Or is that an identifier? Are you a step below the goal? The goal isn't put heads in beds. The goal is to make money.
Right.
And if you could, without selling a room, make the money that you want to make to pay employees and do that, you wouldn't do heads in beds. Right. Heads in beds is a path. So taking a step back and looking at, well, if it's heads in beds, then that's easy. I can tell you how to put heads in beds. Drop your price. Oh, you want to make a profit? But this was the thought process we were going through, because this is actually like when we look at wading in, when we look at wading into different areas, we do those extremes. We start at extreme swings, because then it helps you actually dial in what matters, right? So one of the key things that I talk about, and I'm going to talk about in this panel next week, is you have to start at, well, what are you? Like, why? What's the meaning of this? What's the meaning of your life and what you're doing? Because if you don't know that, you don't know what's important. If you don't know what's important, you don't know what's realistic. And if you don't know what's realistic, you don't know how to focus. Right. So I kind of likened it to, before you set off on innovating, you have to build your compass. So that way, along the way, you can check the most important thing, which is, why am I doing what I'm doing?
Exactly right.
Yeah.
And why is not asked enough. Right. And the answer, and I know that because I ask why a lot. When customers say, hey, we want to do this, I just, even if I agree with them, I'll just be like, so why do you want to do that?
Right. It's my favorite question. It's probably what got me in trouble when I was a partner, and why I'm no longer a partner with somebody, because I kept asking him, why are you doing that anyway? So three things actually. One, too bad that Stuart isn't here, because he is a good counterbalance to the app discussion. But we'll drag him into it another time, perhaps.
Listen, if you can build a good app that drives value, then you should.
Right.
Well, and
if your goal is the guest engagement, and you have the ability to really improve the guest engagement through an app. If you're building an app so you can tell your boss that you have an app because your boss asked you, do we have an app?
Yeah.
And that is absolutely not what you should do. You should ask your boss, why do you think we need an app? What do you think the purpose of it would be? How much do you think it's worth to the organization from an investment perspective? And how much profit do you think it can bring us, either by better guest engagement, actually being able to merchandise and sell things? Like, what is the purpose of an app? for us, for a hotel.
And to that end, I want to go over and now at this moment, but maybe perhaps a little further in the discussion, bring up the difference between shiny object and refining shiny object as being more of an easy way out, like just find somebody to do it rather than do the heavy lifting yourself or doing the heavy lifting to begin with. But with Holly being here, I have two questions that came up from our discussions I'd like to ask Holly, because you have to face from ground level in properties, the transitions of management teams, the transitions of ownership teams, migrations of people being elevated into positions and people leaving positions. What have you found to be the best transition of people that are responsible for things like we're talking about and leaving that vacancy in that, because there's a ramp up time. I mean, it's not just days, it's weeks. I mean, what have you found to be the best way that you've seen a company do those transitions of those people in those positions?
I don't think I have, unfortunately, and I have seen a lot of it. We haven't figured that out. I'm not going to be a lot of help there because I can't point to a great example.
Is it ever? Have you ever seen
a lot
it?
of nightmares.
Yeah. Have you seen where the team has rallied into the void temporarily as the new leader begins to understand the processes and the prioritizations that they're assuming, or anything like that?
It's so funny. I'm going through about 5 different scenarios of this right now, and it's just so maddening to me. I was a Russian politics major. Actually, I was a Soviet politics major. And in the Soviet Union, when one leader leaves, the next leader comes in and destroys everybody who has any allegiance to the previous leader. And honestly, I kind of see that today in business. It's the
That's
weirdest
corporate
thing.
America. What are you talking about? That is like
I've
101.
never seen it so bad as now. I can't quite figure out what the transition's been.
If you destroy it, then you can't be measured against it.
Right.
But gosh, I mean, do you really?
It's not the right way to do it.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I know. I know you're not saying that.
And you won't be undermined by the people who want.
That's right. You're not fighting.
I mean, that's how I see it getting rationalized most. The people, who want to do it the old way, and they're holding, they're going to hold us back from doing it. So we're just going to clear cut and go. But again, most of the time, it's now. I mean, the worst part is they get a bunch of yes people who just they're going to follow this person no matter what, right? It's like bad idea, but we're on their train and let's just go. So
I mean, that's kind of the most effective organizations that I've seen. It's going to be the same for you guys. Is when there's a lot of transparency. So if everybody on the team understands the vision that you're working towards, if the leader gets transitioned out, they understand why they did those things. If they don't have that, if they're just sort of following orders, then the leader's gone, the new one comes in, and it's chaos. And unfortunately, because of so much transition, there's not a lot of value placed on transparency, spending the time, not that they're trying to hide anything, but spending the time bringing everybody on board to the whole vision. I mean, that's, I think, go ahead, a lot of the problem.
No, I was just going to say, I've just had a heartfelt conversation with a friend of mine that assumed a very high-level position with a large company. And he meant well and was in there to innovate and change. He was brought in to innovate and change. And as with all large companies, hit the political corporate wall like a tractor pull. Came out of the gate fast and ended up stopping because an integral part of this transition process is the politics of assuming the relationships that are connected to that void. And I was trying to admonish him. It's like anytime that I had that situation come up from me, or in times, it's like whenever I walked into a new hotel, and it was a smaller scale than a big company with thousands of hotels. But whenever I walked into the hotel, I was filling a GM's void. And so the first thing I wanted to find from the team was what did they find valuable, and what they feel were projects that were in process that needed to be continued. And to not mantle that burden, as you pointed out, it destroyed the previous so that you can't be held accountable to it, but to assume and take the time to rationalize. I didn't give opinions for almost 2 weeks at any new gig I had as a GM.
That's
I walked
amazing.
and listened. I know, right? You would think I'd be walking around going, "Wait, what's that?
Did you have a diary or something? Like,
I
how
took
did
a
you
lot of
not
drugs. I took a lot of drugs. Actually, okay. To be geeky, I had a little voice recorder, and I would record my own personal shit. So I would not forget.
That is perfect.
Yeah,
that's right. But that's what I was going to say. Is
else.
The best leaders I've seen, like in successful transitions, start with a do no harm mentality.
That's
like I'm going to make 0 changes for the first X.
Right.
Yeah.
Like X amount of time, because you need to understand the starting point, what's been successful, what's been unsuccessful. You need to come
and to
from
your point, why are they doing the things they're doing?
Right.
They probably had a reason.
Right. It may be a horrible process, but there's probably some really good reasons they settled on that. Or the reason made sense when they made the decision. Well, yeah, made sense.
Now it does not, but that's
10 years ago.
And it hasn't been revisited. Right.
And it hasn't been revisited, for sure. For sure.
Did you guys ever take an old management class called IMS, Interpersonal Managing Skills?
No, definitely not. If you can't tell by talking to me.
Sorry, I was talking to the rest of the people, Ed. I'm totally, yeah. In that class, there was something that we used to have to do. We sort of made a joke out of it at our company, but before you could disagree with someone, first you have to cite merit. And if leaders could just learn that one thing, I think their transition would be easier.
Right.
What I like about that idea is da-da-da-da-da. However, I think we could do it differently. We used to make a joke. What I like about that idea, this would be Ed. What I like about that idea is nothing. But
well, and I took a follow-on version of that where you weren't allowed to
a little bit. This is from the school of the street. I believe in the shit sandwich.
That's right.
Yeah, similar.
I'm a shit sandwich manager. That's it. I will wrap the shit in something, and it'll make it go down easier. But here's the thing. I like to skip kind of that stuff and actually just ask some simple questions. Do you feel like the way it's been done is the best way it could be done? And have you had ideas on how you'd like to see it improve? Because then it doesn't matter what you think of what it was. You're actually asking the person who gave you the information what they thought of it.
That's right. That's right.
I'll add two things to that. I as a practice, would make it that if a person was talking about another person, they had to do it in presence of that person. So you get the true interpretation of what was said versus their interpretation of how it was said. And secondly, they had to start why they felt there was a positive to what they were disagreeing with first, and then decide what it is that they disagreed with afterwards. So that at least the person listening to the objective opinion was hearing that this is why I think this is better than what you have. I've already acknowledged what yours is good about, but I think this is a better option to it. And now
Lauren,
the dialogue.
I hope your wife can't hear this because, man, she's going to expect that now.
Well, she does. Okay, no. The easiest with my wife is she is always right.
Absolutely, brother. Absolutely. Absolutely.
There is no option discussion. That is the opinion of choice. Is her.
Which is the downside to that approach. If one individual has greater power and influence over the other person won't bring up the objection.
Very true.
That's the problem. That's why I think you take the people out of it and you actually talk about whatever it is.
Right.
And do they feel like it could be better? Because here's the thing. Everything can always be better.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Of course it can.
I don't care how good it is. How good it is compared to how it used to be. I don't care where it's at. Everything can always be better.
I don't know. White Castle at 2:30 after a lot of beer is pretty much perfection. I don't know.
Not having to worry about getting murdered.
Yeah, exactly.
Would be better.
Exactly.
So,
well, who came up with the old line? There's the old thing about be tough on issues and soft on people, right?
Yep.
I mean, the reality is you're trying to solve for a problem. You're trying to look at the thing and say, hey, what needs to be done here? And if Ed, you came up with the idea, great. Let's understand why you think that's a good idea or not. If I think it's a terrible idea, I don't think you're a terrible person.
Right.
Even if I think the idea is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Right.
And here's the easiest way to look at it. And this is how I run my org. If data shows something, data's right.
Absolutely.
If it doesn't, then we default to me.
Beware the hippo. No, this is absolutely true. This is absolutely true. Beware the hippo.
Yep.
Right? The highest paid person's opinion.
Yep.
Because here's the thing. Now, I want to be really fair. The highest paid person usually has a good opinion because they've been around a while. They know stuff, right? So I always had a corollary. Well, no. In most cases, let's be fair.
Or the board trusted them, or somebody,
Sure.
Yeah.
Or they're tall and have good hair.
But yeah, sure, absolutely. But I
worked for me for a while
all the time. I add something to this all the time. Beware the hippo, especially if it's you, right? Because I don't want to be the smartest person in the room. Right. I want people to bring in data and prove that I'm wrong.
Yes.
Because then, you know what we get? A better outcome.
Excellent.
I used to boss. This is a true story, completely true story. I used to have a boss where we would propose things for A/B tests and different changes to the sites and things along those lines. And my boss would always bet us that her idea was better. Okay.
Wow.
So yeah, if you came up with an idea, you put up $1 if you thought it was a good idea. So you had to have a little skin in the game. And if she thought it was just an okay idea, she'd put up $1. If she thought it was a really good idea, she'd put up a couple bucks. If she thought it was a brilliant idea, she'd put up as much as $5. If she thought her idea was better, she'd put up as much as $5. If you won, you kept the money. And if she won, it went into the kitty, and we'd have a pizza party at the end of the month, right? So one time I was having a conversation with her, and I was like, that's really great that you do that. And she goes, no, it's completely self-serving. I said, what are you talking about? She said, I'm on a 45% bonus plan. Every time you guys win the bet, I get closer to making my bonus.
Sure. Well, I'll tell you, I've always said there's two basic.
So even when I lose, I win.
Yeah.
That's right.
I've always said people that there's two types of people. There's people that look for every reason to justify their idea, and then and ignore everything else. Or there's the people that try to find every reason in the world to justify their ideas being wrong, and will allow everybody to shoot at it. I remember when I first went over and started working in the agency side of things, and I had the teams together, and it took me like 4 weeks before finally somebody disagreed with me. And I just sat back and I said, thank God we finally got to this point. They're like, what are you talking about? It's like that you trusted that I'm really sincere in saying it's your opinion that counts, not listening to what I think in my own head is right. And that now that you have the belief that you can disagree with me and know that there's no repercussions, means we can finally start getting some crap done here, rather than just doing whatever I thought I was wanting to do. So to your point, Tim, it's like, you want people around you that trust that they can disagree with you with no repercussions. And in fact, it's actually solicited,
Yeah,
Well,
and her whole point of having people put up the money was, have a little faith in your ideas. Like, don't just come bring random crap. You gotta feel good about this. But if you feel good about it, I'll go head to head with you. Sure, why not? And then if you win, guess what? We all win. And if you lose, guess what? We all win.
Because you all get pizza.
Yeah.
Because we're still moving forward on getting a better output. Right.
I have a
There was a
T-shirt.
great-
Go ahead.
Great
Go ahead, Robert.
perspective from Mark Zuckerberg. There's a podcast that Reid Hoffman does, and he's interviewing
Cool.
Zuckerberg. And Zuckerberg said one of the things when you're hiring individuals that he really tries to focus on is never hiring someone that you wouldn't want to work for yourself.
Right.
Right.
That's absolutely right.
So you really look, and literally, like, you find the smartest person who's most capable, all that. That's very important. But he was really talking about in terms of these engineers where you get, they're really good at code, but they can't deal with people. They can't handle all this stuff. And that was really the litmus test. I would for that guy. Yeah, I'd love to work. And then you're solid. And if you have a bunch of people that you're looking in your organization where you can't say that, you got a big problem.
That's exactly right.
I have a T-shirt that was given to me as a gift that says, "An opinion without data is just another opinion." And it was given for the reason that we kept talking about. It's like, to your point, Ed, it's like, our famous statement was, show me the work. When we're talking about opinions, it's like, spin the laptop, show me the work. Tell me what it is you're pulling this from. Not just you're saying it, but show me the work kind of mentality. So, yeah. Well, hey, see, we solved world peace already. It's been only a few minutes and we're already into solving world peace.
I do think this is funny. So you guys know I am doing this coding boot camp. It doesn't start for a month. It doesn't start until October 17th. But the interview process for this had a lot of communication skills. And I said, why do I hate communication skills to code? And they said, it's a different world now. You have to be able to communicate or you're just not going to be successful.
Well, because
in the coding world.
Code, like a code base written by one person, you might as well look at it as disposable.
Right.
Yep.
That's right.
Because
Actually,
if a team can't work together and build and interchange where their efforts are put, then it's not being coded correctly.
Well,
But
and
also,
I got to tell you, one of the best.
communicate to the users. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. Yeah, that's great. One of the best lessons I ever got about this was another boss. I mean, this was back during the .com boom. I get your bingo card out during my Schwab days, so this is pre-travel industry stuff. But we did a lot of remote work. Like, remote work was totally cool, right? But there were times where remote work was not allowed. And in one of the meetings, one of the guys on the team who was a coder, we were an integrated team, and there was this coder who was bitching about the fact that, he was so much more productive when he was remote. And the manager, who was one of the best managers I've ever had in my career, said, right, but you're mistaking your productivity for our productivity.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Your individual productivity is not the same as the team productivity. And there are times where the team is more productive when you are here, present, whatever. Doesn't have to be physically present, but, available on IM, available, whatever.
Right.
The team is more productive when you are connected to the team, even if you personally are less productive. And it's something I've come back to again and again and again. When people talk about their productivity, that's great, but don't confuse your productivity with our productivity.
That's a good point.
Just to kind of circle back on one thing I had mentioned earlier, that before we jump on topic to something else with this, is that the shiny object thing I was talking about was out of a live discussion I just recently had with a client as they're going through the budget process. I'm working with them on building their 18 budget. And they're looking for, and I got kind of offended at their mentality process from not from the client, but from people that were talking about their companies as I was dialoguing this with some other people. And they were looking for that flip of the switch, that what is out there, Lauren, because I get called because I geek out on all this stuff. Hey, Lauren, is there a product out there that does X? Is there a product out there that does Y? And it's not, whether they're willing to do the work themselves. They just want a simple solution they could jam into their budget price and say, hey, we're going to take care of that because we're going to go to this XYZ software and just have it fixed. And it frustrated me a little bit because I'm sitting there going, you realize, one, cost effectively, it'd be better for you to internalize it. Point number two, it isn't really going to give you everything you want. It's only going to look like you're getting what it is you think you want. And it's not really providing a solution or anything. And I'm just sitting there going, it's a different variation of shiny object. It's a easy man's shiny object. They're looking for a pseudonym, check the box, I can tell my boss we have something in process to handle this, rather than actually freaking solving the real reason for it. So I just want to throw that into the topic.
I love that.
It's great.
And here's why I love that, because there's so much stuff that exists today that if you actually pointed out to the person that if you just fix the things around it, you wouldn't need that thing. There's so much that exists like in our space. That, I'll give you a perfect example. CRSs shouldn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because PMSs should have been built correctly.
No.
CRSs shouldn't exist because all the functionality that a CRS does, a PMS should actually do it. Channel managers shouldn't exist because CRSs should have been the ones that did that.
That's true.
That's true.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The CRS aspect that's important, and a lot of them don't. If you look at something like Oracle, doesn't do it, is the shopping cross property in a destination.
Right. No, I know that's why.
There is no, but that's
the
not.
The fact is people own multiple hotels.
Right,
but it's not the same functionality as just that PMS functionality.
I'm sorry. That should be a function of a good PMS should do that. And why should a good PMS do that? Because a good PMS shouldn't know what a hotel is. It should know what transactions and people and all of that. Like, good technology shouldn't actually know what the thing is that it survives. And I'm sorry.
I think you need I think for the structure of the hotel industry, you need to have that CRS capability because you have multiple management companies, multiple owners, and multiple brands, and how all that fits together.
That's complex user management.
You're absolutely right. But again,
you're like, I agree with you that's. Listen, I know why CRSs exist, and I know why PMSs didn't do it. But in the modern day, how technology works today, PMSs should do what CRSs and channel managers do.
Here's the one place I'm going to push back on this. And Ed, I agree with you mostly. We've had this conversation once or twice. Yeah, I agree with you mostly.
except for those points you made.
except for all the stuff you said.
What I like about what you said.
I like how you said it, but I don't like what you said.
Your grammar and enunciation was flawless.
It's nice that you're awake. However.
No, I've been having this conversation with a client, actually, and Alexa, go away. Sorry. I've been having this conversation.
Do not say that to Amazon will come after you for saying that. Alexa will not be be put in a corner.
Some of this is a semantic debate, right? Some of this is absolutely a semantic debate. You know, in theory, what you're saying is correct. In practice, there's so many reasons that make that.
Hold on.
Right.
Reasons, excuses. No.
Hold on. Here's the thing. I'm a new PM provider, right? I'm spinning up a brand new PM. I'm going to do it right because everybody's gotten it wrong all the years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I now have to build connectivity to all of these places that already have connectivity to all of these other places, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I got to go through certification process. I got a budget for that, et cetera. It's reinvention of the wheel, right?
Mm-hmm.
Going through the GDS certification process is a freaking nightmare, which is why a lot of the PM systems don't actually work as CRSs because they don't have GDS connectivity, right?
A lot of the CRSs don't have their own direct
Right.
GDS connectivity.
Right.
Others, right.
Yeah.
Exactly. You know, there's all the content that a single hotel would not need that a central reservations office does need.
User
so you
management.
could build. No. But now you got to build something. Wait, no. But you got to build something that if you're a European-based company, for instance, and you're dealing with independent hotels, those hotels don't need that. So now you're building a lot of functionality around stuff that those users there are no users for the product who need that.
If you build the core of it correctly, and you build it with the understanding of what exists today, what are people going to want to do? Like, if you build it right,
I hear what
none
you're
of
saying.
this should exist. Now, also
give me
building it
budget,
right means
give me budget and time.
Building it right means
Listen.
using the tools that are available right
First
now.
of all,
to build it
I can
good.
prove to you that CRSs shouldn't exist, and I can prove it to you in the easiest way possible.
Sure.
Easy yield.
Mm-hmm.
For most of my users, no longer logged into their CRS. I got the channel manager to become the dashboard.
Right.
Sure.
Okay.
Who were most of your users?
Revenue managers and
Property.
Starwood, please.
So Starwood, the revenue managers, right? Who were the call center apps logging in? Where were the call center apps?
Right, but that's
logging
again.
in? Where was the website getting the data?
Here's the thing.
Where was the website getting the data? Where's the GDS getting the data? Where was the? I
can't talk about all that. But I'm going to say, but if you built it right, if you built your core system, because let's talk about just the name of it, the property management system.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that should be your core commerce engine.
Mm-hmm.
And should have the user experiences, the security control, all of that to be
for
the core.
A property.
No.
Well,
Because
property
in reality,
He's saying
management
for any property is the difference.
Right.
for any property,
Yeah.
and so property doesn't mean one building. Right? Property can mean property. Like, I own property. Now, go a layer down. Yes, I own multiple homes and commercial and all of that stuff. But at the top, it's property.
Yep.
So if I'm looking at the purpose of the property management system, first of all, you should decide what that should do. And so, like, let's talk about Salesforce. Let's just look at Salesforce. Salesforce arguably built CRM the right way. They built the core of what they could do better than most, and then built the ability for people to innovate on the platform, so that you only need Salesforce and you can buy the things all around it. So, like, your arguments on users need this, users need that, users need this. So then you have to argue in a property management system, what functionality should it do? What should its purpose be? And it should be built to be open. And had it been built to be open, like from the get-go, I argue that CRSs wouldn't have a business model.
They'd be a module.
They would be,
They'd be a module. Right. Yeah. No, and I fully agree with that. I fully agree with that. The reality is, there's a lot of PM systems, if they built themselves that way, they would never have built the CRS module, the CRO module, right? Let's call it what it really is, right? Because it's really central, the CSO module, right? The central sales office module, because their customers wouldn't have needed it. So, again, I think this is more of a semantic debate than a. But I think in practice, there's the reasons why they are separate things. I literally have been having this discussion with a group for a while about, why can't their PM system be their central reservation system? Mm-hmm. And the answer is, in theory, it can. In practice, there's no path forward from their PM system as exists today.
Because it wasn't designed from the ground up.
Right. And I would argue, right, there isn't an option in the marketplace where that's true.
Right.
I mean, so from a practical perspective, I agree with you. No. If there's one in the market, I'd love to know what it is, because I don't see one in the market.
I thought you meant there wasn't an option where the market would want it, is what I thought.
No. The market would give their right arm for that.
Right. Okay. Like, I think there was
their left arm and a couple of legs too.
Right. Because I mean, there's so many elements that if you actually just look at it from an analytical standpoint.
Oh yeah.
You can core it down, and actually it would be a huge improvement to the industry as a whole.
Oh yeah.
Because I still fundamentally believe that architecture, it doesn't matter whose it is the core reason why everything is held back.
Well, we've been having this debate. I got to tell you a funny story. I can definitely share this because the statute of limitations has long since passed on this. We wanted to build, when I was at Wyndham years ago, I mean, this is a long time ago. This is probably 2003, 2004. We wanted to build rate search. We wanted people to be able to do a search for Orlando. Now, this was a real problem for us, right? Mm-hmm. Because we wanted to be able to show for Orlando across all properties, because we had a multi-property site in our loyalty program, right? TripRewards.com in those days. And we wanted people to be able to say, show me all the properties in Orlando sorted by best available rate, right? Our CRS could not do that transaction because
you were only one CRS then? Or did you have the complexity of the multiple?
At that point, we were only one CRS. At that point, we didn't get other CRSs till we bought a couple of companies that we didn't own at that point. So we were using a single CRS. But the problem was the way the CRS worked was to get a rate. First, you had to select a property, and so the first thing you had to do was an area search and say, "Give me a list of all the properties in the area." Then you had to do an availability search on every single property. And then you had to give me the rate search for every single property. It was too expensive a transaction. It simply could not be done in anything approaching a reasonable time frame.
Actually at that time, because we were doing Neat Group working with Wyndham, we were trying to figure out, because not all of their hotels they had multiple rate plans, right? For standalone hotel rates as well as package rates. We could access both of those as well as Priceline rates, right? They had, I think, 3 rate tiers that we had access to.
That's probably right in that area.
Wyndham did not really know which hotels, their system could not tell them which hotels had which rate plans loaded, which had availability.
That's right.
And we wound up doing that for So, because our system could, we could go out and ping, and because we wanted to be efficient, we didn't want to keep, pinging these hotels for that hotel doesn't have that rate. I mean, that was latency and ridiculous.
And then we went off and built it again. But it was hysterical to make this one change to the website was literally I'm going to say $1 million investment. I think it was actually a little bit more than that. But because we added some other functionality, but I mean, it was this thing called Shopper Engine, and it was the cross-brand, cross-property, cross-rate plan, etc. shopping tool that was essentially a cache for all rates and inventory and stuff like that. And we kept saying, wait a second, why do we have a CRS now then? We just rebuilt some core functionality of the CRS.
But that is the problem.
But it was the only way to add this feature to the website. Right.
But that's when you have that property-centric thing, you wind up with asset. Unless what Ed's saying is you build it on a new platform, which is open, and you need new technology, and to basically blow away everything you have. You got to like clear slate and go, okay.
Right. But at certain points, when you hit certain levels of like difficulty with what you're doing, you do need to do the sanity check of what is the long-term strategy of our organization, and does it make sense to continue to throw spaghetti on top of the spaghetti code?
Yeah, for sure.
Well, but let's look at Intercontinental Hotels Group, though, right? They've got a lot of hotels, and they would have had the perfect opportunity to do this. Go ahead.
Jump in for 1 second. I mean, Wyndham, IHG, Choice, these days Marriott, right, have a very distinct problem that very few other people have, which is once you get to a certain size, the scale itself becomes a problem unto itself.
It's crippling.
Absolutely.
Crippling. I mean, when I was there, we had 7,500 hotels. If 10% of the hotels did something different than the standard, that 10% was bigger than every other hotel company except for the other three I just mentioned. Right. And not a little bigger, lot freaking bigger.
Yep. So, but then like I even look at how you tackle something like that.
Right.
And let's talk about like how IHG's gone about it. So if I was the strategy person at how to tackle that project, the first thing I would ask is, what is essential functionality? And what are all the different, things that fall outside of that? And then you review, what do we have to own to be valuable, right? Like, so listen, they all get into tech because they see it as a value proposition that they bring. It's something proprietary.
Right, and they can lock them in.
They all got out of tech. IHG
went
to Amadeus and said,
I honestly, I think they all got out of tech because of, hacking.
They got out of tech for a lot of reasons. But fundamentally, they said, we're not technology companies.
But you look at someone who's going to build something like this, okay? And you look at what is essential, what is core, okay? And what is it that you can do better than anything else out there, and it's timeless, right? Like, this code base makes sense, this design makes sense, this is the core of our infrastructure. And then you build it with the understanding that other things are going to exist and models are going to change. And so you build it with that understanding, and you build it also so it's easy for people to connect in and get what they need to be better for the hotel. Again, Salesforce-like. That's
what we did. Truthfully, if I can say, literally, we did that with Shopper. Shopper was a great tool. Shopper, they are now retiring. Now-ish. Maybe they retired in a couple of years.
It's a long time. I mean, so that was a good product. That was a good investment.
That ran for about 12 years. Yeah. Right? 12, 13, 14 years, which in tech is, is forever, right?
But not in hospitality tech. I mean,
well, no.
Unfortunately, that is true.
But the article that
but I meant that in a good way, Holly.
I know. That's you can't really point to that though, because you have so many systems that have been around forever that are awful that they just haven't changed. But the
Marsha,
Holodex.
Holodex.
The article that I think Robert shared maybe about Amazon and Whole Foods. What I see as such a big difference is, so Amazon has this vision for what they're going to do, and the technology will be built.
That's right.
That doesn't happen when Marriott and Starwood, there wasn't any like, this is going to be the benefit, and we'll figure out the technology. It was, we don't really know yet what we're going to do about the technology.
Well, can I tell you my favorite thing about Amazon with regard to this? My favorite thing about Amazon, right, is we talk about loyalty a lot on this show. We talk about loyalty programs in the hospitality industry, et cetera, right? Okay. Here's the thing. Amazon does not have the lowest prices on many of the things it sells. It has competitive prices. It has very good prices. Sometimes it has the lowest price, but it does not guarantee you're going to get the lowest price by any stretch of the imagination, right?
Yep.
And its loyalty program, which is, in place in about half the homes in America, half the households
more than
in America,
half.
More than half, you have to pay for. So we actually, how many of you are Prime members? Right? Yeah, all of us. So we actually pay Amazon for the privilege of being able to buy products for them for higher prices.
Right. Not all, but it depends. No. But what happens is when people are on
company who does the same thing. Why do we choose Amazon? Because they're great. They take really good care of
Easier
us.
and
We got a
faster.
great experience.
And Amazon-
it's easier, it's faster, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
And Amazon has done successfully what all the hotel groups
claim to do.
10 years ago Marriott was very focused on, we do not want to sell on rate sort of thing, right? We'll do all this, and that was their core core strategy, and that's what Amazon's done. You're a Prime member, you've subscribed, you've got skin in the game, you're committed, and it's so easy. People do what Amazon knows, they won't price check something somewhere else. Now, it was interesting. I went into I don't really buy like a lot of pet food and stuff and pet things for our cats through Amazon.
Very hungry cats, clearly.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. No, but Amazon
buy it from Amazon. You're saying
through Amazon, yeah. So I'm at the pet store and I decided, well, I got the Amazon app and they've got the little camera thing where you just
that thing's amazing. Yep.
It is amazing, right?
It's amazing.
I do it. The cat food was half the price on Amazon. It was like, holy crap. Cat litter, it was double the price on Amazon. I mean, it just really, really depends, right?
And actually, so that means their pricing algorithms got it right.
Well, it wasn't necessarily. Well, it's whoever's in the supplier thing.
Which end?
Create the demand. Create the demand.
Exactly. Exactly. Ed's discussing the cause and effect relationship.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
Well,
Ed, I've had enough of your crap on this one.
that's right. Okay.
That's
All right. So going back to the budget conversation on some stuff, and the conversations I've had with some people, I treat a lot of the agencies that are out there right now kind of like the cable companies. In order to get the one thing you want, you're going to buy the 100 things that you don't want,
right?
To get the service point. And my argumentation with this, and I'm doing a lot of auditing for companies, is to evaluating what their current needs and presence and so forth are. And it's frustrating for them where they're like, I just need this one thing.
Right.
But there's no agencies out there or no service providers out there that are going over and saying, we'll give you that one thing. Now, it's going to be more expensive because it's only one thing, but we'll solve your one thing problem. Compared to, for us to solve that one thing, you need to buy these 10 things because they're all connected to one thing.
Well,
No. I have a point to this in the sense that it's meant for cost efficiencies. There's a purpose in madness. I mean, in order to facilitate these service providings, by offering a spectrum that's interconnected, one is proprietary, and second, it's a cost-effective means within the agency infrastructure of monetization that they can scale the services to pre-described service levels because they're integrated with all the other things that are more streamlined for them to work with. I understand the logic. It doesn't solve the problem. The problem is that as companies are getting better at understanding what their particular needs, and every year they do get better at it because they're understanding more about what they're evaluating, they're only needing selective things to do. But it goes then hits a wall where they're not going to internalize it yet. They still want a service provider to check that box of success. So it's kind of a paradigm where they don't want to pay for what they need, but then they're not being offered what it is that truly would be a solution for them. Oh, I pissed off Robert.
But I think you're talking about a specific point in time, though, from a certain perspective, right? There's the old line, Jim Barksdale, who was one of the founders of Netscape and founded Silicon Graphics and things like that before that, or somebody like that, I can't remember. But he founded Netscape, certainly, along with Mark Andreessen. Said there's only two ways to make money in business. You can bundle things or you can unbundle things, right? And what we've seen over the last handful of years in hospitality, specifically hospitality marketing, agencies, et cetera, is a great bundling, right? So we're seeing a lot of vertically integrated players. Whether they're good at it or not is besides the point. But we've seen a lot of acquisition. We've seen a lot of consolidation. We've seen a lot of bundling. And at the moment, there aren't a ton of unbundled services out there for certain types of things. And that's just a matter of time because that creates a market opportunity for the folks who are going to say, now we're going to make money by unbundling all the crap that just got bundled up. Yeah. 5 years ago, there were a lot of unbundled services. 10 years ago, there were a ton of unbundled services. And I suspect because we've had so much bundling over the last bunch of years,
it's going to go back that way.
It's going to go back that way over the next few years. We're just not quite there yet. So I'm not disagreeing with
Although, I mean, here's what I find is funny, and you guys will probably be able to guess who I'm talking about here. But, organizations that call out siloed technology, saying...
Sorry.
When
Sorry, a
all
little
they
something in my throat there.
when all they did was widen their silo and
Right,
thicken
right.
the walls of it.
Right, right.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because silo technology is siloed technology. If your technology is not designed to work with everything else out there, it's a silo.
Right.
It doesn't matter how much it does or doesn't do. It's a silo. So you add to it, it's just a bigger silo.
Right.
But it's still siloed. And it's not fixing the problems of the industry. It's just moving along how things are done.
Amen to that.
But I would argue, you know, to you, Lauren, to me, you know, Ed, you're probably working on this already because you've always got 12 things in the pipeline, you know, Robert's, you know, certainly there's opportunities out there for unbundled services right now because there's been so much consolidation, everything's been bundled, but that's just because we're at this moment in time where we've hit the point where the pendulum swung in one direction and it's not yet really started.
Well, and that's a good example. I mean, Holly mentioned Alice, right?
Yeah.
And the Alice guys were really smart because most everybody who goes through the hotel industry path, right, would go, oh my, we're going to do this, but now we've got to integrate it with all of our stuff. And so they did no integrations, right? It was totally standalone. It was minimum viable product. It was pretty good. And it was good enough to not get investment from hotel groups, but to get investment from Expedia. Right. So,
and who's the guys that?
And now they've got to do the integrations, which that's a headwind for them now, having to do these integrations.
I mean, what's funny to us and what we're doing is we're going through and modernizing. Like you'll start seeing over the next 7 months as Flip2 grows, is we're modernizing not just the technology but the strategy. So Flip2 is a strategy. It's, you know, because unfortunately it had to be, because we found you could build the tools and build the ability to do this easier. If it's not a strategic organization, they don't know what to do with it. So instead, you know, what we've realized is there's just a crap ton of opportunity in understanding how what you can do technologically can change the complexity of your strategy. And so we design the strategy and then disrupt things like, and people don't see us coming because like they look at what we do and they're like, oh, they do this, and they don't understand what it is we actually do. You know,
actually, I have to tell a story. The first time I ever saw Flip2, this is really funny. Ed, you will remember this. I hope you will remember this. We had a discussion about this. I had a client who had a specific problem. We built a strategy for them to say, this is what you need to do. And then while we were working on execution, I saw Flip2 and went, God damn it. These guys actually have put a face on exactly what we're telling these folks to do. We're trying to assemble this from a bunch of different pieces on the fly, and it was, you know, a bit of a pain. And I went, there it is. There it is. This is easy. This is the strategy done. It's one of the easiest sells I've ever looked at, because I was like, that's it. That's what we're talking about. Just start paying them and you're fine.
And that's the funny thing. Like, we don't sell technology. We sell strategy.
Right.
Well, we don't sell it that way. We just go through and here's your problem. Here's your opportunity. We move you there.
I'm going to call out Henry on Ice Portal as being one of the visionaries of exactly what you just said, Ed, where most people didn't understand what Ice Portal did.
Nope.
And he had the vision now more than a few years back
long time ago.
Modernize. Long before that. But I mean, then to modernize what he was doing up in the cloud when everybody was just beginning to understand what a cloud was, and to create interfaces and purpose to what was being done rather than just providing one single solution of storage. And he had that vision of modernizing. And now he's sitting in the cat seat because the only other direct competitor of him is in more archaic protocols. They're way behind on their contract relationships. He's now modernized his contract relationships where he's like, here's a free service that the other people are paying way too much or making you pay way too much money for. Here's a free service. But if you really want to use the strategy value of mine, then you can pay for different aspects of it. He changed the whole paradigm of model, his monetization model. And to his credit, great foresight for what he had done. You know, and we all know Henry. Henry's an awesome guy. I mean, personally,
he's a brilliant guy that you never see coming because it's wrapped around one of the nicest human beings you've ever met.
Nicest people.
Yeah, seriously. And whenever I find out someone lives in Hollywood, like, I'm like, oh, do you know Henry Woodman? Oh, you don't? You just need to go hang out with the guy. He's a good guy, right?
Yeah.
Like, and that's like literally, I constantly am like doing like, hey Henry, this person just moved to Hollywood and they're in the industry. I thought you guys would like to get a beer.
Yep.
And without fail, it's always like, Ed, yeah, absolutely, let's get a beer. And then the person will call me later and be like, wow, you were right. He really is the nicest guy I've ever met.
Yep. And his
but he's
wife and
also
kids. Yeah. Oh my God.
incredibly brilliant. Like he's just brilliant and unassuming. Like, yeah.
Well, and it's taken. He wasn't like, we're going to make this happen super fast and crash and sell for it. He's been building that for a long.
Mm-hmm.
When did he start? 2004, 2005, maybe.
Oh, 2000, earlier than
maybe
that.
even earlier.
Yeah.
2002,
He transitioned from being
2003.
a photographer and keeping his storage to having the photography.
Well, to be fair, he transitioned from being a game show host to a traveling photographer.
Did I ever tell you the story about him when I was the chairperson of the Caribbean Hotel Association at the time? It was called CHA. I was in charge of their e-commerce, and I had to do this presentation in the Miami conference, and I needed other stuff, and I had just met Henry, and I had him put him on a panel with me, and I ended up, no surprise here, taking the entire time without the panel speaking. I ate the whole time. So at the end, they said, well, who are these people? I says, oh, that's Henry Woodman. I had him up here because he's eye candy, because he's a good looking dude, right? So his nickname forevermore after that, this is like 03 or something, 02, is eye candy. I always tell him, like, hey, eye candy, what's up?
If you go on YouTube and search Henry Woodman, I think it was the dating game. He was on the dating game.
He's on the dating game, yep.
And it's on YouTube.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yep. But
This
for all
I
of that,
didn't know.
if you've met his wife, you know that he married up, because his wife is absolutely amazing.
Well,
She's a magician. She's a magician too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a working magician.
I actually had a show in Atlantic City.
Lady Houdini, I think is
Lady
her.
Houdini,
Yeah.
for quite a while. I think it's still running, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah.
If it's not, it only ended recently. It was running as recently as this year, for sure.
Yeah,
That's great.
She's big time.
And I always like to see when really brilliant, really really nice people do well, because there just simply are so few of us.
Yep.
Well,
I prefer more when like these somewhat arrogant, usually people do well.
Oh, come on now, Ed. You're not somewhat.
Oh my gosh! All right. So I don't. Go ahead.
So Holly brought up
bring
the
this back.
Amazon, the Amazon thing. I mean, the day of the closing, they are lowering the prices at Whole Foods. I mean, that is not like we're going to start doing this thing. I mean, they are just like, boom, take advantage of it. And
here's the
and
thing.
go.
Here's what's funny. They probably won't all that much. They're just going to fix the pricing issue of Whole Foods. I guarantee you that's what they're going to do.
They're going to fix the pricing and the supply chain.
Right. If any of you know that Whole Foods had a really shady pricing practice, and they made up for it by, and if you catch us, it's free.
Yeah.
So you'd go to Whole Foods and you'd grab something that on it says it's this much, and you'd go to the register and it would be more. And if you caught it and brought the product and the receipt over to the little desk, it was free. And how many people? But they also they knew their customer base. They knew that half the people who shop there didn't even know what that stuff should cost and didn't even care.
Yeah.
Right. So they just took advantage and then had a really interesting program for the people it upset, which is, if you catch us, it's free.
That was Hotel Reservation Network, Littman and Diener. That's how they start. Guaranteed low price and
110%. That was their thing, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, 110. And they had about something like 0.3% of the people call them on it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
So we've been talking a lot today. There seems to be this we keep coming back to strategy of different things, right? The strategy of how your property management should work, the strategy of how you market yourself. This is a great article. I know I talk about this guy a lot over at Stratechery, but it's interesting because it's a great strategy, right? Where he wrote a piece called Amazon's New Customer, and I don't want to talk about it without crediting appropriately. because it's this whole idea. If you think about what Amazon does really, really well, he made the argument that they bought Whole Foods, and I think it's a perfectly spot on argument, that they bought Whole Foods because it's a good customer for the services that they provide to the grocery supply chain, right? Mm-hmm. And so it gives them their first and best customer. If you think of Amazon as the first and best customer of AWS in many ways, but then something they can scale out to everybody else. Again, this gives them the ability to, I'm kind of skimming this real quickly, but things like the high fixed cost and return to scale of getting supply, warehousing it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They're really good at that. And so they can do that for Whole Foods, but essentially they could open it up to anybody else who wanted to sell groceries over time. Right. So they can lower the price to Whole Food. They can have Whole Foods lower the price. They don't even have to have Whole Foods make much money.
Yeah, no money. It doesn't matter. Yeah,
because it gives them the scale to then go to modularized suppliers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, and
to offer these products through. Because here's the problem: they couldn't scale grocery delivery. You just kind of hit it on the head. On a from an e-commerce perspective, that's really hard to do because people want fresh produce, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's tough to scale because stuff goes bad and whatever. But if you have a customer who needs that, then all of a sudden they just bought all the scale. This article is so worth reading, even for hoteliers, because it gets into the core of this is what strategy actually looks like. This is strategy done really well.
Okay, and they have their Prime members, right, paying $99 a year.
Right.
Amazon Fresh customers, $15 a month.
Yep.
Unlimited delivery.
Yep.
Doesn't matter. You just get stuff. So you start plugging that in, and then Whole Foods has their own brands, right? Their house brands, 365, stuff like that. That's now all going to be available through Amazon. So instead of those 364, or how many stores they have, 400 stores, whatever that number is, now they can sell it everywhere. So, I mean, this thing works in so many different ways. I mean, the strategies.
And specifically where those stores are, right? Amazon went, what's the statistic? They're like within 20 miles, 50 miles or something of 80% of the population. Their distribution centers were, right? Well, now they've gone to having a retail outlet within, 2 miles of 80% of the population. I mean, it's an enormous, enormous shift.
And then you think with the Amazon Go program and everything else that they're going to be able to enact with the real brick and mortar relationships with those buildings already, and the demographics that are already seasoned to what Amazon is and what Whole Foods is. I mean,
So here's the thing that when you are a strategic organization, you get to do. You get to analyze, like, okay, so here's what we're really good at. What would benefit us to plug into this system that we're really good at? And that's when a company that started by selling books ends up buying a high-end grocery chain.
Right.
So shouldn't we talk a little bit, though, about Google and Walmart?
Good point.
They're trying to compete.
Yep.
Well, I mean, they don't have everything you're talking about, though.
No, but because here's the problem with the Google Walmart solution, right? Is that Walmart has a certain type of infrastructure and Google has a certain type of customer acquisition, but Walmart has a certain type of customer acquisition and Google has a certain type of infrastructure, right?
Yeah, if they got together, they'd get closer. Yeah,
if they got together, they'd get closer. Amazon is built from the ground up to solve these problems, right? Yep. And Whole Foods is built from the ground up to be a distribution channel only, right? So it works out really, really well that they're aligned. Google and Walmart would need to get deeper into each other's business for it to be, I think, a legit, threat. I think it's not a bad defensive strategy. I think it's unlikely to win.
Right. No. Walmart has to go completely onto Google's cloud platform. Everything has to go to Google, and then everything for.
They also need to collaborate with Google's designers, process designers, and not just on technology. They need their own operational processes looked at with a really intelligent process designer to get anywhere close to be a real threat to Amazon. And what I love about this whole thing is if I haven't mentioned it before on the show, I'm so anti-Walmart. It's unbelievable.
Me too.
Yeah.
Shocking.
And what I
Wait,
love...
we can compare our anti-Walmart.
Yeah,
Do you have a negative physical reaction when you walk into a Walmart? I do.
I don't. You want to know why? I have not stepped foot in a Walmart in 14 years.
Wow.
How do you know they still suck?
I will pay more. No, because it's not. I actually hate Walmart because of what Walmart did to small local economies.
Yes.
And what I love about Amazon is
what they're doing to small local economies.
They're helping.
They're doing it to every.
They're doing it to big.
They're doing it to the big guys, and they're leaving this space for highly specialized boutique businesses to come back to these towns. Because these highly specialized boutique businesses, first of all, can get product sometimes through Amazon that they never even knew about before, and service is something in these boutiques that matter, but they can also sell what they're doing
to a lot of people. Yeah.
To a lot of people on Amazon.
Right.
So they leave room for smaller businesses to have a global reach and effect, where Walmart just came in, suffocated those businesses, then underemployed the people who used to work in those businesses at higher salaries, and then have just created this, like, drop your expectations. Like, saving money is the only important thing. It's about saving money. It's about saving money to the point where if they're a major employer in a city, that city is underemployed because of Walmart playing on this human psychology of lowering the pricing. Right. And so I love that Amazon is a huge threat to them and has really slowed Walmart's year-over-year growth.
Oh God, yeah.
And and they actually are poised to eradicate their stronghold on the consumer behavior.
So I have a question for you, Ed. So by extension, you're completely fine with what Expedia and Booking.com have done with independent hotels.
No.
Why not? It's exactly the same thing. They've given them a platform.
Why? Small and independent hotels haven't killed local economies. You have to understand why I dislike Walmart.
Hold on. Hear me out, right?
Okay.
Small and independent hotels now have an opportunity to reach customers anywhere in the globe at a relatively low cost of distribution with no upfront cost and the like through a channel like Expedia and through a channel like Booking.com. Whereas if they were to go ahead and take on a flag, which is their other alternative for reaching customers, essentially, right? Yeah. They become Walmart. They become sort of this generic product that's lower priced, that's less differentiated, et cetera. It's the same thing, right?
Yeah, that I agree with.
Okay. Yep. All right, fair enough.
Yeah,
I actually agree with it too, believe it or not.
To be fair, I agree with that. And actually, there are quite a few, and I know you work with some small independent hotels that use Expedia correctly. And because of that reach, that cheap reach that Expedia gives them, they actually can price more aggressively.
That's right.
Because they know that if they miss 10% of their available inventory, they can get it gobbled up. And so they can be more aggressive on their pricing strategy.
That's
right. So I mean, I do liken that. I thought you were going the Walmart way, and I do believe. I got to be honest with you too. Like before soft brands, before Curio and all of that, I completely agree with the premise that those brands were like dangerously close to being Walmarts.
Oh yeah, for sure. I fully agree with that. Actually,
to answer a little bit of Holly's statement question, I threw up a little link that I think is also contributing to why Google is connected with Walmart, and it was just a quick one. I had to change it because I had the damn tracking code. I get a little quick on grabbing the link, but National Public Media put out a smart audio report. Interesting statistic out of it was the people that are using voice commands. 65% of the owners wouldn't want to go back to life without their smart speaker.
Oh, right.
Now, I know we've had discussions, Ed in particular, about shutting things off because of trackabilities and so forth. But this is becoming this voice command stuff, as we've talked about before, is becoming more and more a process in daily life of SERPs being replaced by search inquiries by audio. We've talked about Amazon and Echo and the market presence and so forth. Google knows it's lagging behind in comparison to Echo. Amazon Echo in comparison to, with Alexa, being able to sell its products now, as we just talked about with Whole Foods integration and so forth. So Google has to make a play that they have the same usability function, I think, within this voice-activated world of bringing products to bear on purchasing via the Walmart platform while that Walmart still has its presence of, picking up products and delivering products and so forth. I think that has a part to it too.
Yeah, but think about the fact that, again, this is a place where Amazon has got such a head start.
I don't even know how even Apple's even going to jump in on this. I mean, Apple, by the time they get
no. Apple's doing what Apple's always doing. They're a completely differerent premise. They're going after.
Oh, I do. I know. But I'm saying, what market are they looking to develop for what they're offering?
They're going after Sonos. They're not developing. They're not developing a home companion. They're developing a really, really, really good speaker system for you to play your music.
They're developing a trap.
Happens to have right.
They're developing the trap to capture all the profit in the industry.
That's
just like
exactly
they did with mobile phones.
Just like they did with mobile phones.
They have almost all the profit. So they're not the biggest.
That's right.
They don't want to be they've never wanted to be the biggest.
All of the profit.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Good point. No, that's a great answer. That's a great answer.
I mean, and that's what they're developing. It's the same thing with Apple TV. Apple TV, like the way that's going, which by the way, if you haven't heard, DirecTV Now on Apple TV, like if I was a cable company, I'd be shivering. Yeah. So are you all familiar with DirecTV Now service?
I am. Ed turned me onto it.
You use it?
I'm not use it, but I'm looking at it.
Amazing, and they just announced the last two things holding me back from completely getting rid of my cable service, which was CBS and DVR. So now I have
CBS because you need Star Trek Discovery.
That's right.
That's right. But hold on. I got an answer for you right on that. When we moved from Dallas just recently came here, I did the cable cut. I got off of DirecTV over there with the satellite dish and everything else. I have a little box here called Tableau, which plugs into a regular local antenna. Right. And it also allows me to DVR. I have an external drive attached to it, so I can record all my local shows, the local news, all the stuff that I don't want to watch when they're broadcasting it. And I have on my Apple TV on it, but you have to play to use the Tableau. It's not plugged into your TV. You have to run it through Apple TV or Roku or something. The ability I have DirecTV on it. I am missing nothing. I am missing absolutely nothing.
Yeah,
and it's not.
You're putting in a crap more effort than I wanted to.
Yeah,
DirecTV Now. DirecTV Now answered my problem, which was I want to save money. But I want the same exact experience, so I don't want effort. So like you went the real cord cutter.
Too.
Yeah, and I
got local too.
I more went this looks like this is going to happen, and they're offering a rate. So now let me lay this out for you, because I jumped on because they said anyone who comes on now will get grandfathered in permanently to this rate plan. So I pay $35 a month for 100 channels. Now they've added HBO for free, Cinemax for free.
Really?
I get a $10 a month credit on my AT&T wireless bill. Okay. I have all the channels that I care about. Like I'm not missing a single channel whatsoever. I have a better on-demand library with them than I do with my cable provider. I prepaid 3 months of that and got a free Apple TV. And now they're releasing DVR and CBS. So I will literally go from what is $165 TV service to $35 a month for DirecTV Now and $65 a month for internet.
Wow.
Right.
And DirecTV Now doesn't have any of the stupid taxes and fees and interstate crap. I pay $35 a month, and that's it.
Yeah. Now, my problem is AT&T isn't down here for internet service, so I get stuck with CenturyLink and Comcast. So I still need basic cable as a package wrap to get a good internet speed.
Oh, you don't have CenturyLink fiber out there?
No, God knows. Fiber, that's 2 pieces on the end of a pole.
And where I am, I only have Time Warner cable. That's it for high-speed internet. Nothing else. It's unbelievable.
Where I live down a quarter-mile-long private drive, so nobody will install a wire to my house except for the fact that there's
good news for all of you is 5G cellular.
It's coming.
Yeah,
it's coming.
2020 though.
Yeah.
2020. What, are you not going to live till then?
Yeah, but I got to wait 3 years to watch TV.
How's he going to find out who the Bachelorette is when 5 years from now?
Absolutely, yes, because I DVR that today. I posted a link. By the way, this is a podcast called The Marketing Companion. Mark Schaefer, Tom Webster. Mark Schaefer is a friend of mine. He's a fellow instructor at Rutgers University. Tom Webster is the vice president of marketing at Webster Research. At Edison Research, who did the national public media research that you just put up, Ed. Lauren, where they're talking about Amazon as a speaker, and they got some great data in there. It's a worthwhile listen. So it's a link to the one specific episode. I recommend it. I will tell you, I like Mark a lot. He's one of the most brilliant marketers I know. He wrote a book called The Content Code. Highly, highly, highly recommend it. When they are talking about the the marketing implications and things like that, I think they're spot on. When they get into some of the business implications, I have some thoughts. but generally, it's a worthwhile listen, and they're really good guys. So I thought people might enjoy that.
Keeping mindful of everyone's time, I wanted to make sure that we hit any other topic that was worthy of discussion while we quickly had everybody still available.
And unfortunately, I'm not still available. I just realized what time.
So
I know.
I tried to do this.
I have to go too.
Yeah, I mean, is there anything else that stand out that we can hit, or is it something?
Really, the reason I came on the show was to nag Lauren and Robert about getting your chapters done.
I'm so happy
Bye.
Lauren isn't done. Oh, I am so happy I'm not the last.
I had more than you to
I
start
am
with.
working on that. Let me. I got caught up in a due diligence thing for a client, which popped up, and they did. And the deal's probably not going to go because of my due diligence, which is, I don't know.
So you earned
I've done my job, but I put the thing behind, and it was time sensitive because they were ready to go, and it's like, ooh, let's peel back that onion. What is, or no, actually, I didn't use the onion analogy. It was more like a walk along the beach, and I said, it's like we're picking up rocks, and there's a lot of stuff scurrying around underneath it. So.
And here I thought I had bad analogies.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
I
And
mean,
Tim,
he
you're not.
changed halfway through.
Exactly.
But anyway, yes, Holly, we will. But as a mindful of it, we're up the Adrian Awards. Applications are available until September 15th. The top 25 awards for HSMAI applications are available to September 15th. And we're having the 90th anniversary in the first week of September, right, Holly? We have the digital marketing retreat and
Yeah,
the dinner.
and the digital marketing retreat.
And Bob Gilbert's 90th birthday. That's right.
Oh, that's not good. Oh, that's not. Oh, wow. I'm going to take a time
graduate
stamp.
the year before him.
He looks great. He looks great for 90.
I'm going to timestamp this and send it over to Robert. Hey,
Oh,
Robert.
I've done it the whole time. Everything with Julie, everything with Bob. Yeah, as always.
Are you guys? Are any of you going to the America's Board, the 2-day thing they're doing? Me too. I think that's going to be really cool.
So the three of us will be there. Yay!
What's the
That'll
America's?
be great.
Wait,
We weren't invited, Robert.
no, I'm going to the HSMAI thing for the digital marketing thing and the dinner. And is the America's Board thing the next day?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I'm going. I didn't know what it was.
So it's just you, Ed.
It's okay. You guys
We'll
put
keep
it
you in
on.
spirit there.
You guys put it on.
I'll bring you in spirit. I'll bring you in
Invited
spirit.
to
Believe
that.
me.
It's actually a beta thing that they're doing that looks pretty cool, I think. But actually, we're all going to be in that meeting then next Friday during this time.
Hey,
Yes.
Holly,
So, Ed,
do
it's on
yourself a favor. Go back 3 episodes ago and pull up Lauren talking about the people on the board and
The
just
revenue.
play that.
Revenue board.
The
Revenue.
Play that at the America's Board and be like, "Hey guys,
Oh,
Yeah.
I'll play for him. I'll play it for him. I'll be happy to tell him. It's like,
bye, Tim."
Mr.
I gotta run.
I
Tim,
do
if people
too.
want to find you, if people want to find you, where is it that they can find you and learn more about you?
Flip2.com/Tim Peter. No, timpeter.com or TC Peter on Twitter.
And Tim-
Perfect.
You know, we need your help too with these chapters, so we can talk about that later. Have you
Fantastic.
talked to
Okay.
Dan?
Oh, you didn't jump out fast enough, Tim.
Have I talked to Dan Waxman?
Yeah.
Yes, I have.
Okay, good.
I have a phone call with him Tuesday.
Okay, excellent. And Ed, somehow, why have we not roped you into this? I don't know.
Because I'm not the best person in my organization for doing things like that. That's Diane. So you'd probably be better off having Diane than
There
me.
you go.
I'm more of a
Well, let's
figurehead.
Bye.
You all
Mr. Tim,
have a great weekend. I will
Tim.
not see you next week. I'll be at the HSMA thing, but I'll see most of you in person. So
Well, it's not next week. It's the week after. It's the week after.
Yeah.
sorry, the week after. Yeah. Okay, then I will see you next week. Okay.
All right. Yeah, we have a guest host next week. We have
Saar.
he hurt his leg. Saar.
Saar.
We'll have Saar with us next week. He hurt his leg this week.
I just
We're
want to
Nancy
point out
Kerrigan.
that 2 guest hosts in
Bye.
a row.
Bye.
Leg injury.
Yeah, I
That
know.
is weird.
We're
What'd
the
you call
Tanya
it?
Harding. Tanya Harding.
Tanya Harding.
And that was Ed. Ed was reminding me of that one. We're the Tanya Harding of shows. Yeah. But
That's
Holly,
fantastic.
if people want to find you or know more about you, where is it that they find you?
Holly Zoba at signatureworldwide.com.
Yeah.
Oh, or no, I have a new website about my new program, standapartsales.com.
Ooh.
Nice. Stand apart sales.
Yeah, I'm very excited. That's where I've been for the last several weeks putting together. We just trained 120 interstate salespeople last week.
Wow. I saw some of your
Yeah.
Facebook posts, and it looks like you had an absolute awesome time, and they did too, from what they were posting.
Oh my
Now
gosh,
to train them, do you use a chair and whip, or just?
We're training salespeople on technology with strategy driving it. It's the best class ever. But
Wow.
I do have to go because
Did you build that? Did you build
I
that, or
did.
did you?
Yes, no, that was
Wow.
mine. This is mine. Yeah, for signature.
Awesome.
I built it for signature. All right,
Okay,
thank
good.
you.
I'll be
Thanks,
working
Lynn.
on my chapter this weekend for you. It should be. I fully expect it to be done by the time the weekend ends.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I have
No,
told you that before.
I'm working on 3, so I'm no better.
Oh,
than
you aren't done either. Oh, see, I feel much better.
But we have to be done by next Friday. Everything.
Okay.
Yes, we have to be done.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye. All right. Well, gentlemen, I guess that pretty much wraps it up for us as well, unless there was some burning issue that we wanted to hit one more time.
I don't.
All I want to call out is, Lauren, you got a comment from a Hilton person on your post on LinkedIn, where I at least did call out to them that had they watched it, they would have seen that we did say the Hilton app got a lot right.
Yeah. Oh, good. Good. I
Yep.
didn't get to catch that. Thank you very much.
Yep.
All right. Well, let's go. Mr. Robert, if people want to know and learn more about you, where is it that they can discover you?
Robert K. Cole on social media or rockcheetah.com.
And Mr. Ed, where can they find more about you?
They can go to flip.to, or they can find me, Edward StOnge, on most social networks.
Very true. And now, like we mentioned before, Saar from Before Check-In will be joining us next week, since he decided to, well, this was actually this week that he hurt his knee. He hurt it a week ago, I guess, or a little bit more than that. And then it just, unfortunately, a little medical thing had to get in the way of him being able to be on the show this week. But he promised us next week he'll be joining us, so that's great. Looking forward to really bugging the crap out of him, because from Ed, all the things you said that Before is doing, I really want to find out.
It's really neat.
good
I mean,
details.
what I like about Saar is he built all the plumbing and now is just building really interesting solutions around it.
On the plumbing.
The latest one is like something around payments and having that automatically flow to the PMS and to the payment provider, and it just eliminates fax for like deposits and all of that.
Yeah.
Reduces chargebacks like by a huge amount. And he's the only person in the world who can do it for Agilicis and Oracle.
Wow.
Wow. So Agilicis, he obviously had to get some.
He has
a
built.
steam fitter and a chainsaw is kind of, I think, the standard interfacing.
Well, what's
material
interesting
people
with
have for
Agilicis is he has built such a high quality connection to their architecture that if you request above what Agilicis can do with their existing stuff, they actually just go and have Saar build
That's
it.
what I'm talking.
Yeah,
That's
so
right.
actually, Agilicis, you'll see they offer a payment solution and they have a new booking engine, all that. That's all Saar stuff.
Wow.
Wow.
Like,
that's
yeah,
great.
so he doesn't have to sell into their customer base. He does it all, or they do it
Yeah.
all. So, yeah, no,
That's great.
it's a neat niche that he found.
Very
Cool.
neat.
Yep.
Well, very
Lauren,
cool. Well, that'll be next week.
If people want to find you, where can they go to a website that looks like it's a work in progress, possibly
But it's a
not-
better looking work in progress, isn't it? I mean, it looks a little bit
Yes,
better
it
than the
looks
work
a
in
little bit
progress.
better.
I haven't looked at it
There's some
recently.
more Ipsums still in there, but we're working on it. It's a matter of fitting that in between that. And I'm trying to decide on getting a stand-up desk or a sit-down desk. But anyway, that's me putting my office together. It is at hospitalitydigitalmarketing.com/live for all of our previous episode links and, of course, future links as well, which I have to now infuse the fourth quarter in because we're coming up to the end of what I had built before. So for any of that, and
Oh,
also
are we
the
about to
podcast.
have like a year 2000 issue?
No. We're transitioning. Actually, this platform upgraded, and I haven't moved to the new upgraded platform. In order to do it, I have to recreate all the future shows.
Gotcha.
So with all that else that's going on about moving from Dallas to here in Florida and everything else, it's been on the burner. So this week is the get it done so we can move forward in September, October, and all that other fun stuff. So,
I think
anyway,
you better work on your chapter first.
yes, or Holly will chase me down and kick my ass. Yes, you're
Well, let's
absolutely right.
face it, whichever one of you beats the other wins.
That's right.
Exactly.
And I had 5 of them to do. I'm down to my last 2, so I got to get the last 2 done.
Oh,
So,
I'm doing two. So,
I guess.
but they're the beginning. They got to be good because they're at the beginning. So,
Yeah,
Yeah.
they set the stage.
set the stage.
All right. Well, anyway, gentlemen,
I was, just so you know, I was going to start because it's the Certified Hospitality Digital Marketer certification, right? And I was thinking of saying just what you said earlier, Ed, was it shouldn't be digital. We should just drop this off, but it's just marketing. But I decided not to be subversive and really screw up the whole program.
Oh, I haven't chosen that. I'm still trying to be subversive. So Ed, have no worries. In the HSMAI programs that we'll run through for the first week of September, I will invoke your spirit in most of the conversations I'll be in. And be the disruptor to the process. Gentlemen, as always, thank you so much for the time this week and for all the weeks that we have been and so forth. And then looking forward to next Friday with Saar. It should be a great conversation with him. And thank you, Ed, for bringing him to us.
Absolutely.
All right, gentlemen, thank you all. And to everyone that participated and listened to, thank you, everyone. Bye now.
Bye.